Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Great topic today, straightforward. Let's do it. Ever live in a haunted house? What's your story? Please remember to like, share, say hi, and subscribe. My parents thought their house was haunted. They set up a motion camera in the hallway, kitchen, and living room for a few weeks. The only thing they were able to catch was our cat regularly shitting and pissing in the sink. I lived in a house with 4 girls and 4 animals in college. One night I happened to have the house to myself, which was fabulous because I had a paper to write. So I'm in bed with my laptop and I hear a scratch at the door. It's the dog Miko, and he's shaking and whining. As soon as I open the door, the 2 cats, Ralph and Beaner, streak in behind him and jump on my bed. I squeeze in between all of them and I resume my studying. Suddenly, Ralph's hair stands on end and Miko starts to whine. Beaner's claws are digging into my legs as soon as I hear footsteps upstairs in the hallway. It's a pretty short hallway, probably about 20 feet, but the footsteps keep walking and walking and walking past where the outer wall of the house into the next door neighbor's house. Miko starts growling when the footsteps turn around and I hear them sprinting back in our direction, and then a door slams shut. By this point, my heart is racing and Miko is barking up a storm. So I grab a baseball bat and walk upstairs. Nobody was home but me and the animals. I've got a story to tell. This isn't my house, but my cousin's, and I practically live there anyway. I don't believe in ghosts at all, but my family does, vehemently. Growing up in an Asian country, superstitions were practically fact, and it wasn't easy for a person to dismiss them. So when my cousin said he saw a strange man standing outside the gate muttering odd things and leaving, the family was a little taken aback. Who was this guy? Immediately everyone thought that the house had been marked or cursed. Several strange occurrences were reported. One of the girls said that when she entered her bedroom, she saw a white woman dressed Victorian style sitting on her bed crying. We were formerly an English colony. Doppelgangers of family members were seen. At night, more than a few people reported seeing a strange furry figure peering furtively into the bedroom. It all reached a breaking point when my cousin suddenly broke out into a fit in the middle of the day. He had no history of epilepsy whatsoever. He was writhing on the floor, babbling incoherently about a bearded man standing in the corner of the room glaring at him. The family then decided that they had had enough of this and went to a local priest to cleanse this house. Things seemed to settle after. I personally never bought into it, but as a child, I really couldn't say much. Who knows what really happened anyway? I have tons of similar stories if you're interested. I recall a school haunting that had us all sent home for the day. Okay, here's the school story. This was a sort of string of several incidents that climaxed in one big thing that got us all sent home for the day. First, the school is pretty old, built during the British occupation and actually contained secret exits and stuff. Certain parts of the school were permanently closed, which of course led to rumors among the students. My favorite was that a deformed kid lived there, forever shunned by the school. Second, we all witnessed the shaken, crying janitor being escorted out by some of the teachers who were trying to calm her down. We were all told she was ill, but the rumor was that she saw something she shouldn't have seen in one of the stairwells near the locked area. Third, the ever-popular toilet, where all the boys went to secretly have a smoke. It was a boys' school. In the same week as the janitor's breakdown, there was a huge gathering at the toilet, and we saw teachers yelling at kids to get back to their classrooms. The toilet was then shut down. The rumor: one of the boys was taking a dump, and when he came out of the cubicle, he saw several wet, long hairs plastered on the wall. Think The Grudge. The grand finale: someone got possessed. One of the boys went into a frenzy and had to be held down. He was speaking in a very strange dialect that was quite alien in the area, and strangest of all, in a woman's voice. His parents and an ambulance had to be called. Sometime later, we were all told that we could leave for the day. More rumors after we left. The school got a priest or medicine man to cleanse the school. I honestly have no time for these superstitions, but I'm surrounded by them, so it can get interesting. Also, a day off from school. Thanks, Ghost. My mom's convinced that the house I lived in until I was in kindergarten was haunted. Apparently, the previous owner was a nice old lady and she died in the house before we bought it. She has a lot of stories about hearing doors creak, voices, and footsteps in the hallway before my sister and I were old enough to walk. Pretty standard ghost stuff. But the weirdest part she talked about is that sometimes in the middle of the night, when no one was in my room, my mobile would go off and my crib would be rocking when my mom walked in, and I'd be dead asleep. She thinks that when I was upset in the night, the ghost of the old lady would help calm me down in the night. TLDR, I had a ghost nanny. Assuming something like this is possible, and that there are supernatural entities that can make physical contact with the world, I could see an older woman, a maternal instinct to continue into the afterlife and look after a small toddler or child. Yeah, alright. When I was 1, my mom's father died. We were in the car, and I frantically tried getting my mom to look out the window of the car saying, "Papa flies, look, Papa flies." When we got home, she had a message on the answering machine saying he had passed away. She was only 19, and there was no anticipation of his death. She has a dozen stories of me crying. She would come in to check on me, and by the time she got there, I would be laughing and tell her, "Papa tickling me." We also had this music box that played "You've Got a Friend in Me" from Toy Story. It barely worked, and you had to open it for it to play. In the middle of the night, my parents would hear it on the monitor, panic, come to check on me, and I would be sleeping. The song would be playing out of a closed music box. I did not believe in ghosts. Sure, I was entertained by the notion, but anyone who came out and stated that they believed in ghosts, I dismissed as New Age hippies or whatever. And then I lived in a haunted house. It started out as little things. The bathroom door would open violently if anyone ever closed the latch, so often that we came to count on it. I asked my roommate if he ever noticed a red light in the spare bedroom, as I always did, when walking up the stairs in the dark. He did. I'd always go in the spare room to investigate, but could never find the source of the light. These things I could explain away. Then, weirder things started to happen. One night I was sitting in the living room with my girlfriend and my roommate when I noticed the shape of a woman's face appear in the pane of glass of the window in the other room. We all witnessed this. Even then, I tried to explain it away with the trick of the light. What finally convinced me that something was happening was one time when I was brushing my teeth, something tugged insistently on my sleeve, and I'm 100% sure that I didn't catch it on anything. I was in the middle of the bathroom. Have you ever been fishing? It was like a fish was nibbling on the line, except on my t-shirt sleeve. That freaked me out. Still, stranger things happened. We'd heard footsteps upstairs while home alone. I often saw shadows out of the corner of my eye. One time I even saw a shadow while looking right at it, in the middle of the room, not up against a wall. I moved around to make sure, for 5 minutes or so. Twice, while heading up the stairs to my room for bed, I heard a woman's voice say "good night" to me over my shoulder. The strangest thing that happened was New Year's Eve 3 years ago. My roommate and I were hosting a party, and waiting for people to show up, sitting in the living room. Suddenly, I felt something brush against my arm, and the light bulb in the lamp I was sitting beside exploded. There were a few other things that happened, and some I'm forgetting, I'm sure, but the fact is that too many strange things happened for it to be a coincidence. I have since moved out of the house, but the belief remains. Something strange was happening there. Pretty sure my grandmother's house is haunted. One time I was walking out of the bedroom, and as soon as I opened the door, a ghost-like hand reached for me. I jumped back and shut the door. Another incident at the same house, I was outside with my dog, and she took off running and barking towards the driveway. I saw someone or something walking down the private drive toward her house. I said, "Grandma, who is here?" The dog stopped in her tracks, stopped barking, and ran back to me. I couldn't see anyone there anymore. Grandma didn't see anyone to begin with. Lots of strange noises and mishaps, like broken dishes and missing things in that house, too. Well, this thread was created for me. Currently living in a haunted house. Been here a little over 2 years, kind of used to it by now. However, some very interesting things have happened here. The most notable experience happened about a month after we moved in. Strange things were happening, sounds of footsteps, laundry ending up in bizarre places, feeling someone watching you. My roommate felt little feet standing on her hip while she was laying in bed one night, so we decided half-jokingly that we would record an EVP session. Well, when we played the tape back, you can very clearly hear someone telling me to shut up after I asked if anyone was there. Didn't hear anything at the time, only heard it on the tape. Other things have happened as well. It's blown in my ear when I was in the bathroom getting ready one day, ran a finger up my boyfriend's back when he was walking around without a shirt on. Honestly, nothing has been too terrifying, just mild annoyances. I always said I would never live in a house if I knew it was haunted, yet here I am. It's bearable. A bunch of other things have happened, but as long as I don't hear anything like, "Your mother sucks cock in hell," I think we will be okay. It all started when I was about 7 months pregnant with my daughter. I was asleep in bed with my husband. Suddenly I woke up and looked out the doorway to our room. I saw a toddler, who I thought was our 2-year-old son, walk in front of the doorway dragging a blanket behind him and then walk away into the laundry room. I instantly got chills and the hair on my neck was standing on end, but I figured it was just our little guy sleepwalking like his dad used to do as a child. I woke up my husband and asked him to go get our son and take him back to his bed. He looked puzzled, but got up and went into the laundry room. "Jaden isn't in here, sweetheart," he said. I was baffled. I had been watching the laundry room entrance the whole time. I hadn't seen him leave. My husband went to our son's room across the house, and there he was, sound asleep under the blankets in his bed. Eerie, but wait, there's more. I dismissed this occurrence as pregnancy brain and went on with my life. Several months later, after our daughter was born, I was in the shower while the kids were down for a nap. I was rinsing out my hair when I heard footsteps. Little running footsteps. I opened my eyes, heard a giggle, and saw a little boy, not in the clothes my son was wearing, in a red shirt and jean shorts, running across my bathroom into the closet. Strangely, I was not freaked out. This has happened several times over the last 5 years since the first time. I'm never really freaked out by him, and he has aged some. He now seems to be 4. He always runs by when I'm in the shower like he's chasing something. The most recent encounter I've had was one morning when my husband and I were asleep. My 2 oldest kids, 5 and 3, came in to wake us up. It was still dark in our room, and from the bathroom light behind them, all I could make out was their silhouette. They came in and stood on my husband's side of the bed. He was awake but didn't open his eyes. I told them both to go potty, and then I would turn on a show for them in our room. I told my older son to let his little sister use our bathroom, and for him to use his down the hall. He just stood there, so I repeated myself, and he turned and went down the hall. My daughter went into our bathroom. I sat up waiting for them to return. My son came back and sat on the floor waiting. After a minute he said, "Hey Mom, can you turn on a show?" I said, "Well, let's wait for your sister." He turned around and said, "She's still asleep, Mom." I said, "No, she isn't. I saw her go in my bathroom." I got out of bed to check on her. My pod daughter had fallen asleep sitting on the toilet before, so that's what I expected. I got to the bathroom and it was empty. I quickly went to her room and there she was, asleep. I had been watching the whole time since my son had come in with who I thought was my daughter. Since then, I hear little footsteps all the time upstairs. If we're all downstairs or in the hallway when I'm around the corner and my kids are napping. I watched a documentary on haunted hotels and saw one featured in Edinburgh, Scotland, that I had spent several nights in a year earlier. Nothing unusual had happened. Had I seen the report first, maybe my mind would have played games with me. I also came close to buying the Amityville Horror House in 1986. The haunting did not concern us. I was a little worried about the notoriety and possible invasions of privacy. Alright, if you were forced to live with a ghost, would you want a child ghost? Or an older ghost? Oh, kids, I love them. Might be creepy, right? Let me preface this by saying I still do not believe in ghosts. There must be some explanation, right? God, I hope so. I live in a Victorian house built in 1878. Historical documents we found show that at least 8 people have passed in the house. Anyway, my room used to be my parents' room, is the most active. The most common occurrence is the bed shaking. This is not a violent shake, and it is also not some illusion caused by a heartbeat or some such other thing. The bed will shake for around 30 seconds or so. After the bed shakes, you can usually bet that shortly after it stops, it will feel as though someone sits on the bed. It's always the same place as well. If you happen to be in the spot, it will feel like a light 5 pounds or so bag had been placed on you. Occasionally, you can almost feel something touch your head quite forcefully. That's the one that trips me out the most and is the most unexplainable to me. There are noises all the time, and what sounds like footsteps every night, but I attribute that to an old house that makes noise. Hopefully. Here's my story. When I was a child, I wanted to believe ghosts were real. I wanted to desperately prove that. For many years I tried, but to no avail. Until I turned 18. By then, I did believe some things couldn't be explained, and was slowly losing hope. I worked in an aviary that had lovebirds, cockatoos, and budgies, equaling out to 500 total roughly. Anyone who has dealt with breeding small parrots understands that some parents aren't very good to their chicks, and will abandon them or abuse them. Of course, the parents were to be kept more as pets and were not allowed to breed, and so I would become the new mom. Take into consideration that feeding chicks is a lot like feeding a human baby. They will want to be fed even in the night from 2 to 4 hour intervals. One night, I was laying in my bed and had said my pleasantries to my friend for the night. In my silence, I was recollecting some memories. My silence broke. I heard an odd gurgling sound. I figured it was the water bottle I kept for my little fledglings and thought nothing much. Dead silence flowed through the room, and I began to become a little alert from the oddness of it all. Again, the queer quietness was stolen. The sound was akin to gurgling or croaking. I have no idea how to really describe it. It just made my body go into fight or flight mode, and my hair stood on end. Honestly, it sounds like a cliche reaction, but it is true. I looked around and saw nothing. I decided my next course of action was to ask if anything was in the room. My little bird squeaked tiredly back, but nothing was seen or heard. I decided to take the next step and slam my foot against the bed. To my horror, I felt a force shove against my bed 4 seconds later. I was astounded and in shock. Nothing happened after that. 2 weeks later, I was walking into my kitchen and went to the fridge. Before I opened the door, that same noise was heard not 2 fucking inches from my face. I don't remember grabbing anything from the fridge, but I do remember calmly walking back to my bedroom, where I noped for the rest of the night. A month later, in the middle of the day, I was talking to my friend on Skype. The door to my bedroom started shaking violently, and I screamed at my brothers to effing knock it off. He yelled from the bedroom that it wasn't him, and I quickly opened up the door. Nothing. How my fat ass of a brother could run silently to the living room in a second is beyond me. I can't explain it. I'm pretty sure my friend pooped his pants on the other end. I was happy that something happened in front of someone and that I couldn't explain it. I have tons more experiences, but less violent, more explainable. I wish I was smart enough to record the other 2 events. TLDR. Ghost wanted minty, fresh breath. Shenanigans were had. So, did you count how many of these stories started with the sentence, "I'm pretty sure I don't believe in ghosts," or "I still don't believe in ghosts," yet you're posting on a story about living in a haunted house? There is a black silhouette of a man that will appear on occasion in my parents' house, and has since we moved in when I was very young. We call him Bob, because that was the name of the old guy who lived there and died there before my parents bought it. Everyone in my family, mom, dad, 6 siblings, has seen him multiple times. Even the dogs bark at him. But he's never harmed anything. My mom swears he's broke a cup once, but I'm pretty sure that it was a coincidence or something. But yeah, he checks up on us every once in a while. We'll be eating dinner or watching TV or whatever, and there he'll be, just standing in the doorway to our dining room, that's his favorite room, watching us. However, when you do look at him, he drifts out of the room and goes up the stairs to the 2nd floor, and then onwards to the attic stairs and then into the attic. The only bad part about that is that the attic stairs are next to my bedroom door, so I get to deal with the door slamming every time he goes up there. Also, when I'm stoned, I have to go through his favorite room to get munchies, and I'm always terrified that he'll surprise me, and I'll shit myself, or something.